And welcome to today's webinar, How to Source Effective Lot Items to Maximize Fundraising Efforts. I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today, and I look forward to an engaging session from our speakers. Before we get started, just a quick reminder that this session is being recorded, and we will be sending the recording and slides afterwards. Also, we encourage you to continue the conversation on Twitter. So if you hear something you do like, don't forget to tweet at Givergy UK with the hashtag #RaisingMore. Also, as this is a listen-only webinar, feel free to use the chat for any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the session. Just a few words on Givergy for those of you who don't know us. Givergy is an award-winning fundraising tech company, revolutionizing how fundraising is done. Givergy was launched in 2009 and uses interactive silent auctions, pledging, and mobile bidding tech to help charities raise as much money as possible at events and online. The past 12 months, we've raised over £25 million for more than 1,500 charities globally through an array of our interactive fundraising products. I'm very excited to introduce our panel today. I'm Lisa Vecchio, our head of marketing, as your moderator. I joined Givergy back in October, and I must admit, being new to the sector, I truly do get excited seeing the impact and hearing from our charity partners how technology has contributed to them raising more. I'm joined by Rachel Kirkham, our new head of client services, who helps to ensure Givergy delivers excellent events and that we're meeting the expectations of our charity clients. Rachel, former head of special events at Macmillan Cancer Support, brings a great balance to our panel, with 15 years working for various charities and non-for-profit organizations in the UK. She'll be talking to us today about her experience on the charity side, utilizing auction items to meet fundraising targets. Lee Spink, our head of lot services, joins us with 6 years' experience in the industry, partnering with some of the best suppliers around the globe to ensure that each auction delivers the very best results for our charity partners. He'll be sharing insights on how to maximize your efforts in ensuring the items you choose appeal to your demographic and ultimately will raise you more for your cause. So before we get started, I just want to do a quick poll to make this a bit interactive to see who out there has ever used a third-party supplier to acquire lot items. So I'm just going to bring up the poll. And if you could respond. All right, we're seeing the answers come through. That's really, really interesting. All right. So here we have it. We've got 36% who have used third-party suppliers and 64 haven't. So look forward to sharing some best practices with you guys who haven't used suppliers in the past. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Rachel.
Great to be here today and share with you some of my own experiences. I worked in the third sector for the past 15 years and within special events for the past 10. So I definitely understand the challenges that charities are up against in order to raise as much money as possible from fundraising activities. As you all know, lot items for your guests are so important to charities as they give you something tangible for your guests to spend their money on. Lot items are essentially prizes or gifts for your guests to walk away with. And they aren't just for silent auctions either. They can be used for any manner of fundraising activities, such as live auctions, grand prize draw, raffles, or simply to entice people to spend more money when they purchase their tables. It's all about being as creative as possible. Whilst it would be amazing if everyone was willing to give out of the goodness of their hearts, sadly, this isn't always the case, and the cause just isn't enough of a reason to dig deep. That's why lot items are obviously so important. They give guests the opportunity to get something they've always wanted, or alternatively, they might discover something new that they've never dreamed of, and at the same time, they're still making sure they're raising funds for the charity. They're also a great way to raise awareness of the charity. If you're tweeting a thank you to one of your generous prize donors, then hopefully they might retweet it to their supporter base and then help to raise the profile of the charity even more. However, obtaining prizes and lot items obviously isn't easy, and no matter who the charity is or what the size, there's so much competition with other charities who also need lots for their events. Companies get asked for prizes by hundreds of charities every single day, and they can't give to all of them, especially as they might already have given to charities that are close to their hearts. Charities work with volunteer committees, and they will all have different social and business networks. The strongest committees will be fundamental in sourcing great experiences through their contacts. However, if you don't have a committee, you might be a small charity who doesn't have a huge supporter base, or you don't have a particularly strong committee, then you might end up with 60 hampers or 60 dinners or 60 signed footballs, or even worse, things that your committee have regifted from their homes. The sheer number of lot items that is required, both in silent auction and live auction, can also make it really difficult to get amazing items that will entice your guests to spend more. In order to get 30, 40 or 50 prizes, depending on the size of your event, then you might need to approach hundreds of different companies, most of whom don't even respond to you. This takes up a huge amount of time and staff resource. I did this for many years, so I do feel your pain. It's also not only looking at the quality, at the quantity, it's also looking at the quality of your auction items, securing the right lot items for the right audience. Your sports quiz guests might not want to bid on spa days, preferring instead to bid on a box of the Six Nations, whilst your guests with families and small children may not want to bid on a 3-week safari for 2 people. It's all about choosing the right items for the right people. Companies also do want to be generous and be seen to be offering a lot item, but they won't necessarily offer the best experience or the high quality item that you desire. Those money can't buy items for the live auctions are the hardest to come by, as you need your prizes to stand out. They have to whet people's appetite and to be something that you can't just pop into the shops and buy for yourself. That's when celebrity experiences come in, or once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, which only come from great contacts with insider knowledge. Before I started at Givergy, I worked at Macmillan Cancer Support in the special event for 7 years. Just like obviously quite a lot of you, as we've seen from the poll, we didn't actually use a third-party supplier to obtain any of our lot items. We were lucky that we had a strong brand presence and that people have heard about Macmillan, as unfortunately 1 in 3 people are affected by cancer. So many companies wanted to give to us as they'd had a personal experience or knew someone else who had been affected. However, Macmillan's brand was also a bit of a double-edged sword, as some people saw Macmillan as too big and wouldn't donate to us as they assumed everybody else did. Macmillan had a variety of special events, ranging from gala dinners and annual balls. There also are more quirky ones, such as the Girls' Egg City Luncheon and the House of Lords versus House of Commons tug of war. Bit random, I know. Definitely a very varied event programme, which meant we had a really varied audience. Our most popular lots, with the highest number of bidders, were debenture tickets to Wimbledon, private dining experiences for 10 people, or X Factor's final tickets, all raising between £1,250 and £2,500. Our lots that raised the most were luxury holidays in St Lucia, or sailing the Caribbean, trip to see the Northern Lights, or adventures in the Alps, all raising between £2,000 and £5,000. We always had to make sure that we had something for everyone and catered for all tastes, ensuring that we had a variety of lots, including short breaks, luxury holidays, celebrity-endorsed prizes, culinary experiences, bespoke designer items, and sporting experiences. However, in my experience, I think it was even harder to get those amazing money can't buy items for the live auction. You would hope that these would come through a great committee with their amazing contacts. But over the years at Macmillan, the nature of the committees did change, and it was something that we really struggled with. After last year's round of Prince galas, I was definitely considering using a third-party provider of lot items for my future events.
Hey, thanks, Rachel. That was really insightful. So another question for you out there. Which lot item category raises the most during your auctions? Okay, there's definitely a few clear winners here. I'll share those results with you here. And it looks like that fairly even split between holidays and experiences, but memorabilia and art don't do as well as those. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Lee Spink, who's going to provide a little bit more information about what lot items work best.
Hi everyone, thanks for taking the time out of your schedules to join us today. Just referring back to that poll, that's pretty much what all of our data would suggest, so most of you are right that experiences and holidays are in fact the most popular lots. Following on from Rachel, I'm going to discuss how bringing in a third-party lot item supplier can benefit you and some key areas for you to consider when planning your next fundraising event. Using a third-party supplier for lot items can seem like an unproductive way to raise money at your event, but if done in the right circumstances, it can produce great results. In an ideal world, you will have sourced enough lot items to cater for your event's guests, but as Rachel has mentioned, sourcing quality items is becoming harder for charities. So in what circumstances should you consider bringing in a third-party supplier? In our experience, the key to raising the most at your charity event is about striking the right balance, catering for the demographic of your event, and providing desirable items that encourage your guests to bid. Givergy have managed silent auctions for over 1,500 events globally and found that the ideal ratio of lot items to guests is 1 to 10. That's one auction item for every 10 guests. So if your event has 200 guests, 20 silent auction items is the ideal number, 400 guests, 40 lots, and so on. If you have less than one auction lot for every 10 guests, bringing in a third-party supplier to complement and supplement your existing donations can be a great way to raise additional funds and provide your guests with some fantastic lots to bid on. If the lots you have sourced yourself don't provide your guests with enough variety, for example, if you have a large number of experience-based donations or a large number of memorabilia donations, a third-party supplier can work with you to provide your guests with a broader variety of lot items for your auction. In our experience, it's important to offer your guests this variety so that everyone in the room can get involved in the silent auction. This is critical in our view to a successful silent auction because guests don't always bid on lots for their own personal use. In our experience, guests often bid on items to gift to others, for family members or for use for corporate entertainment. As mentioned by Rachel, it's those money can't buy items that are often the hardest to come by for many charities, and this is where bringing in a supplier can really benefit your event. Givergy have an unrivaled collection of money can't buy experiences, everything from cricket experiences at Lord's with Andrew Strauss and Mark Ramprakash, to access to the F1 Red Bull Racing Factory with team principal Christian Horner, and incredible experiences with FC Barcelona, where your guests could fly with the team to an away game in Spain, giving them exclusive access to players such as Neymar, Suarez, and Lionel Messi. These unique money can't buy items have a proven record of raising significant amounts of money for our charity partners, particularly when placed in the live auction. Another key benefit from taking lot items from Givergy is that we provide a discount on the cost of the Givergy system for items placed in your silent auction. The items are not required to sell for the discount to be applied, and there is absolutely no risk for you for any items that doesn't receive a bid. And since April 2015, the average amount raised for our charity partners from every lot sold at a Givergy event was £536. And in the last 12 months, we've raised £1.3 million for our charity partners by providing this service. When our charity partners are selecting lot items to source from us, we often see a tendency to select the very cheapest options available. In our experience, auction items with a low reserve don't necessarily result in a high bid and a good return for the charity. As discussed, the key to getting the most from your silent auction is striking this balance between the variety of items on offer, the demographic of your guests, and your fundraising targets. If your targets are high and you're looking to generate large sums from your event, offering the majority of lots in your silent auction with reserves of between £100 and £200 probably won't allow you to generate the funds you're looking for. Equally, if your targets are lower, or you don't believe you have the demographic to generate large bids, then offering your guest lot items with high reserves will result in fewer bids, less money raised, as well as potentially alienating your audience. Givergy offer a wide variety of price points from our lot items, from dinner for two at Gordon Ramsay's Maze, to the exclusive experience we've just mentioned with FC Barcelona. Taking these two examples, the dinner for two at Mays raised on average £111 for our clients from 26 sales in the last 12 months, whereas the Barcelona experience raised £7,100 for our charity partners on average from 25 sales in the last 12 months. Going for dinner is something people do relatively often, so guests are less inclined to bid larger amounts for lot items such as this, whereas the Barcelona experience was a unique and exciting item that people simply couldn't find anywhere else. And this has seen incredibly competitive bidding at our events with some fantastic returns for our charities. So in summary, it's the striking of this balance in terms of price point and demographic that's crucial to maximising the fundraising potential at your next event. Hopefully, you're in a fortunate position and you've had a large amount of donations for your event. And the temptation is often to include all of these donations in your silent and live auctions. We understand that your donors are hugely important to you, and ensuring you maintain their generosity long term is of equal importance. However, in our experience, having a large amount of lot items available in your auctions can be counterproductive. As previously discussed, we believe this ideal ratio to be 1 to 10. By placing too many items in your auction, you can create more of a shopping list than a selection of items that encourages competitive bidding. Too many items can result in low numbers of bids on your lots, and in some circumstances, no bids at all. So keeping the number of lot items to around this 1 to 10 ratio will, in our experience, help you maximise the potential in your silent auction. With regards to your live auction, having large numbers of lots can be time-consuming and result in your guests losing focus and interest. Our advice would be to keep your silent auction to around 5 items at most and around 20 minutes in length. By following these guidelines, we believe you will see better results for your charity, as well as providing a better all-round experience for your guests. Image licensing is something that most charities who receive donated items, or indeed do use a third-party supplier, don't often consider. It's very easy to copy photos from the web, and we often forget that each one of those images is someone's copyrighted material. The law on this is often difficult to accurately apply, as many people believe the images sourced online fall under what's called fair use. However, what is clear is that fair use does not include the act of generating money, either commercially or for charity, from the use of a copyrighted image. For example, several well-known image library companies own the copyright for very high-profile sporting events such as the Premier League, Champions League, Wimbledon, and the Rugby World Cup, and they are actively searching for abuses of their copyrighted materials. Once these companies believe they have found an abuse of their copyright, they then begin to seek damages for these abuses. So how could this affect you? The image libraries will seek to financially settle with you and as the seller, but they can also demand that you provide the details of all buyers of the lot items in question, so they can then directly contact your guests to ascertain any further potential copyright abuses. For example, if an item of memorabilia has been sold on to another party, they can then seek damages for all parties involved in this chain. The amount of damages they seek varies, but for very serious abuses of highly valuable images, these amounts can run into the thousands. So it's incredibly important to receive clarity on image rights from your donors or suppliers that you work with. Givergy only use licensed images for all of our memorabilia, as well as all of the images we use to promote our supplied lot items. The license for these images costs our suppliers in excess of £20,000 a year, but this is a cost we are happy to bear to provide our charity partners with the peace of mind that any item we sell them and their donors carries no risk of attracting the attention of the copyright holder and any subsequent legal action. Givergy are absolutely committed to an ethical policy regarding the supply of any items we make to our charity partners, and this slide you're now viewing demonstrates how this policy works. So on the left, you'll see a series of gemstones, beginning with crystal and platinum, and the margin cap to the right of them. Now, this margin cap is the capped margin that Givergy make from the sale of any item. So our items fall within these categories. So a low value item will fall within the crystal, and our very highest value items will fall within platinum. So that's the maximum amount of money that Givergy will make from the sale of that item. So moving over to the example on the right, this provides you a breakdown of how that would work. So if you look to the left column, which says lot sells at reserve, this gives you the very worst case scenario of what will happen. So the grey section is the cost that Givergy pay our supplier to provide that item. So in this case, £265. The purple section is Givergy's capped margin. We never make more than that capped margin, irrespective of how high the bid is. So in this case, this item falls within the sapphire category. So our cap margin is £245. Now, crucially, we always ensure that the charity is the main beneficiary from the profit made from any item sold. So looking at this left-hand column, this provides worst-case scenario, which is the item receives one bid at reserve. So in this circumstance, Givergy would make our fixed capped margin of £245, but we built in £285 for you, the charity. So one bid, you, the charity, would still be the main winner. Moving over to the right, that gives us a bit of a better scenario. This is when the item receives many bids and raises a huge amount of money for your charity. So at reserve, the situation is still the same. You've still ensured that £285 goes to you. Givergy make no more than this £245, but it's received a lot of items over its reserve price, and you also keep that £795 from the bids made at your event. So that's all from me. I'll hand you back over to Lisa, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have.
All right, well, thank you, Lee. I found that was really interesting and insightful. So from a very high level, that's what we want to share with you today. Open it up to Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please do type them in the chat. And myself, Lee, or Rachel are more than happy to answer them. I've got a few that came in during the call. The first was, where can I find a list of items that Givergy sources?
So we have an online brochure that we update quite regularly whenever we bring on new items that we want to offer your charities, and we are very happy to send you a link to that following this webinar.
Okay, thanks, Lee. Just scrolling through, looking at a few more questions. What was the average amount of the lot items that are raised?
The average amount, so in the last year we sold over 2,500 lot items, and the average amount that we gave our charities for each one of those sales was £536. So that's the average raise. We had, you know, some bids that were exceptionally higher than the reserve price, and equally we had some that were at reserve price, but our average that we gave away was £536 for each lot item that we provided.
Okay, great. Can we use Givergy's items without the technology? That's a really good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Yes, you can. We're very happy to do that. We can supply all of these items on a sale or return basis, which means, again, as we discussed earlier, there's absolutely no risk to you. If an item doesn't sell, it's simply returned to us, and there's no risk to you.
Okay. Another one, is there another way to see the items you have? We will be sending a link to the lot brochure following the call. So if an item sells for £30,000, the maximum you will take after cost will be $595.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. If that item fell into the highest category, which is platinum, the most we would make from that lot item is £595, which is exactly what happened on a few occasions with the Barcelona experience. I think we had 2 bids in the live auction of £26,000, and that item was a ruby item, and we made £445 from both of those bids at £26,000. So that's all that we took from that bid.
That's great. And what's the best item you've ever sold?
The best item that we've ever sold, in terms of ones that we've supplied?
I'm not sure.
I think that I would probably say that we focused on it during this webinar. I think the Barcelona experience was probably one of the best items that we ever sold. It was totally unique and gave people access to football players that you could only ever dream of. And the bids that we saw coming in for this was just superb. I mean, it regularly raised, £10,000. The average was £7,000, but we saw, as I've just said, bids of £20,000. So I think that's probably the most exciting item we've ever sold, because it always brought great returns for our charity partners.
Wish I could go to a game. How easy is it to get those seats?
Not easy.
What determines which band it goes into?
What determines what band it goes into? So it would be a price point. So we would, if something costs me £100 to buy, then it would be unreasonable of us to expect a 200% margin return on that. So we would categorize it based on its cost. So we would work out that, we would find a fair amount that we thought would work for that lot item. If an item costs £3,000, then it's not unreasonable in our view for that to be in the top two tiers. Equally, it would be unreasonable if that item cost £100 and we were making £400 profit from that item.
Okay. Can you just supply items, or do they have to be when coupled with your tech?
No, yeah, we've answered that one. Yeah, we can just supply items. That is something that we're very happy to do.
Okay. A few more coming in, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. So I run a ladies' lunch for 200 women. Do you suggest items that suit my audience, or do you decide? I don't want any football items, which I think is a fair enough comment.
It's very
for the demographic.
Absolutely. For any event that we do, we engage with you. We look to understand, as we've mentioned, the demographic of your event, the targets that you have, and any items that you've managed to source yourself. So we would always seek to just complement what you have. But we definitely, every client that we work with, we would get their feedback on what types of items, because most events that we do happen every year, so you have a better idea of what works for your particular demographic. We can then build the items that we supply you around that so that we can make the most from the auction. As you've said, if you have a ladies' lunch for 200 people, filling that with a ton of sports memorabilia probably isn't the right way forward. Equally, as we've said, people don't always buy for themselves, so it's sometimes perfectly right to have a variety and have one or two items that aren't solely geared towards the ladies at that lunch. But we would absolutely make sure that any items that we offered you were tailored for your audience.
Great. Okay, and just being conscious of time, I'll just take one last question, and then we'll any questions that we haven't been able to answer today, we will make sure we follow up with a direct email so that we can help tailor whatever we need to for your unique circumstances. Last question being, do you always display items at an event? My event venue is restricted in space.
Yeah, so we would always want to, because people will tend to bid more if they can see what they're buying. However, we do many events where, because of space restrictions, we simply can't display the lot items. What we would do in that situation is we would bring them to the venue, and we would probably keep them out of the main room so that if somebody did specifically want to view, we would be in a position to show it to them. We may just not display it owing to those restrictions, but in our opinion, we would always look to display every item at the venue.
Yeah, and I think coupled with that, that's where technology does come into place, being able to view them.
Absolutely.
Through silent auction, platforms and whatnot, which is also the service we offer. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time today. I hope you make it out in time for lunch as well. And we will be following up shortly with the slides, recording, and any other questions we weren't able to answer directly on the call. Thank you for your time, and look forward to our next webinar, which will be held next month. Thank you.